sitting in a grass hut on a dirt floor with a dying widow and 4 of her children sitting next to her. And I can be there with a Roman Catholic, a Protestant, an evangelical, an Orthodox. And as she's crying out to God, asking him if he's going to really care for her children, if he truly is a father to the fatherless, I'm sure as the 4 of us are sitting there, our theology becomes crystal clear at that point on what Christ commands us to do, to care for the orphan. I think serving orphans and widows, even aliens, heals the church because it takes the focus off of us. And he was actually so ill with his HIV/AIDS that I went and visited him and sat by his bed there, prayed for him. And it's just one of those things where, I looked at him and I said, Ofri, after I'd spent about a half hour with him, I said, I'd really like to be your friend. And he wasn't quick to answer, which really kind of surprised me. He thought about it, and I could see he was thinking, do I need another friend, or will you really be a friend? But he said, there's a pain that's really greater than all the pain he's suffering, and it's not physical. It's the pain of loneliness. Entering into their pain isn't always physical. Sometimes it's just as simple as investing time. Said it best when he said, this orphan and widow ministry is not that complicated. It's really as simple as giving a cup of cold water to a thirsty person. But the solutions are simple. James 1:27 doesn't say you have to provide them education and housing and health care. It says visit them in their distress, be with them, enter into their suffering. I think anybody can do that. What's an orphan need? And what I found was so many times the need was framed materially. And there would be arguments about which material provision was most important. Is that education? Well, if you send the kids to school and they haven't eaten, they're not going to pay attention, they're not going to learn. So food must be more. So food is the priority. But if the child's sick and can't eat, and can't pay attention in class because they're so ill, then maybe healthcare is the priority. And so we went round and round trying to prioritize which was the greatest need and how to materially meet that need. And at the end of the day, I think everybody ended frustrated because they didn't have the means to even provide one of those. And so we went back into the scriptures, and as we looked at it, that's when we looked at Deuteronomy 24:19, and again, God wasn't saying what it was you had to do for the orphan and the widow. He said, out of what I've given you, you have enough for them. I've provided that already. And it was a revelation, I think, for myself and for the pastors that serve them that, okay, so God has given us enough. So all that's holding us back now is our own attitude of approaching that child and realizing that we have enough with God. When we go with God and meet that child where they're at, we have enough, and He'll meet us there. And so that was a paradigm shift to see that. That was a step of faith for them to say, okay, I might not see that I have all that they need, but the Bible tells me I have what they need. I have enough because I have Christ with me. And as they walked in faith towards these children, and they found that God met them there. Well, I think we find ourselves much like the pastors there. We've been trained to frame everything materially, that it requires money to solve problems. And it requires faith to minister to an orphan and a widow. More than anything, you have to have an abundance of faith.